Now let's look at Theresa May in relation to this fraud. I'm not saying Theresa May is directly involved in any fraud. However, I'm going to show you evidential links in relation to this fraud system and how it links back to her. Let's look at some research on her. So she was the Home Secretary and the Prime Minister of the UK. She oversaw the London Bridge and Grenfell Tower fire and the Windrush scandal. I've highlighted some of these because these are quite relevant to this fraud, particularly anything that relates to the money. Her government also announced a £20 billion increase in funding to the National Health Service. She oversaw the introduction of elected police and crime commissioners, the deportation of Abu Qatada, and the creation of the College of Policing and the National Crime Agency. Now, I'm focusing on Theresa May early on because it's important how it relates to me personally, and I'm hoping that police officers that I used to work with and any new officers will see this video and see what the system and how they are part of this system, whether they know it or not. This is an article, How Theresa May's Careless Cuts Destroyed Britain's Police. This is a former police crime and commissioner says, we are now suffering the consequences of the actions of the worst Home Secretary in living memory, Theresa May, supported by her austerity boys George Osborne and David Cameron. I was a senior officer and even I struggled to get the police to investigate crimes. On Home Office instruction, the force's property assets were sold off and cash reserves emptied, staff contracts were terminated and officer recruitment frozen. Gone were decades of experience and opportunities for progress. Now, I was in the police for 18 years and resigned in 2018 due to us not being able to carry out the services that we should to the public. It's one of the reasons I left. The main reason, all my colleagues will remember how hard it was. We were suffering. We could not do our job at this time because of this going on, because of the cutbacks that were being made. We heard rumours that Theresa May's husband has an affiliation to Group 4 Security, and that Group 4 Security were being given private contracts for security to stop and therefore not require the need of the police. We'll come on to that in a minute. So this is an article from The Independent. Theresa May's husband is a senior executive at 1.4 trillion investment fund that profits from tax avoiding companies. All of this will become relevant in a minute, and I'll show you evidence. It's important I show you evidence. Latest filings to US authorities show that Los Angeles-based Capital Group owns huge stakes in a variety of companies, including investment bank JP Morgan Chase, defence giant Lockheed Martin, tobacco company Philip Morris International, the pharmaceutical sectors Merck & Co, and also Ryanair. Let's look at those companies now. JP Morgan very quickly links in to other companies that are linked and created. Now, these are Companies House records, okay? They're official documents. You can have a look at these before they're deleted. I anticipate they're going to propose to alter the system, Companies House registration system, and delete all of these records. Luckily, I've retained most of them, including signed documents. Jordan's and Swift incorporations, okay? They were both used in starting up and affiliated with my company where fake bank documents have been acquired. Lockheed Martin UK, let's have a look at them. So they're registered under Lockheed Martin UK, but the corporation documents are under a former company name, Close-Ray Limited. They were called that company in 1989. Anyone can look at this. You can see that they've changed their name frequently over the years. Let's look at the incorporation document for Lockheed Martin under Close-Ray Limited, Swift Incorporations Limited. Let's look at Philip Morris Limited, okay, the tobacco company. They're very closely linked to a Clifford Chance secretaries. You'll see they were secretaries for a very short period of time, 4 days. This is a classic method. If you look at the Ham and High article of company house fraud and money laundering, then you'll see that this is a system that is employed. It's not illegal, this part of it. They're allowed to do this. The government have allowed this, remember. Companies House have allowed this to happen. Look at my other videos and this all makes sense why it is fraud, though. Okay, you'll see that, again, Clifford Chance linked to this. I'm not saying Clifford Chance has done anything wrong personally, but it links back through Philip Morris Company. You can see very quickly through links, through Companies House records, it links to Waterloo nominees. This company, Waterloo, comes up frequently, and you will see in my later videos, it links through public documents to Jordan's as well, and Swift Incorporations Limited that started my building. Philip Morris Group pension plan, here we go, let's look at them. Oh, sorry, I'm trying to look at my phone and the screen. Philip Group Morris pension plan links through to this person, links through to another company, and it links through to other companies, and then through this company, so it's not far away at all, through Companies Records, and then it links through to a company called Temple Secretaries Limited. Remember, Temple features frequently. This address is notorious for being used as a shell company address, correspondence address, sorry. Over 260,000 companies were registered at this address at one point, according to the Ham and High article. Have a look at this. Don't just believe me based on this. Look at the documents, look at Companies House. You will see all of this is true. 788, 790 Finchley Road, London. Let's look at Merck Investments, another company mentioned in that article. Okay, they are directly linked to Temple Secretaries Limited. Again, 780 to 790 Finchley Road. Okay, through Merck Holdings, you'll see another company is linked through this gentleman to, again, you can see through the tops. Okay, you can see that they're linked because through the tops you can see that it's just a link through from Merck Holdings through this person, okay, through to this person. Again, this is a company linked to them, and you can see it then links in through that company to Jordan and Swift Incorporations Limited. And you'll see address of Jordan's there is in Bristol. A lot of the addresses are going back to Bristol. Let's look at Merck Services UK. Here we go, Waterloo Secretaries, again, Waterloo. Again, this is Jordan's, remember. Ryanair UK Limited, we all know that if we're in the Bournemouth area. They fly out of Bournemouth Airport. Okay, they link very quickly, sorry, shaky screen, link very quickly through to other companies associated, which then link through to Waterloo. Again, remember Waterloo because this will come up in all of my videos. So will Jordan, so will Swift Incorporations. Bearing in mind there are over 5 million companies registered in Companies House. It's almost impossible for me to come to these same conclusions through the research. Silverjet PLC was started by Swift Incorporations Limited, okay, and that was linked through, again, you'll see it was linked through to Ryanair. So let's look at Group 4 Security. Now, I told you there were rumours that the police and myself thought that Theresa May's husband was linked to it. He wasn't, according to this, okay, but Group 4 Security benefited annually from £600 million of contracts from the government, so that's taxpayers' money, has a former government minister, Whitehall advisors and civil servants on its board. Importantly, it also included former Met Police Commissioner Lord Condon. Let's look at Group 4 Security Limited. This is their Companies House records, okay? There you go, you can see very quickly that Lord Condon was in fact linked through to it, and the company itself was incorporated by Swift Incorporations Limited. Fake bank documents have been acquired through my company, remember, that was started with Swift Incorporations. Look at the College of Policing Limited, started up by Theresa May, or when she was in power, sorry, they were started up. There's their incorporation documents. Okay, it links very quickly through to a company called Addleshaw Goddard LLP. There's Addleshaw Goddard LLP. And you can see through Addleshaw, it links through to this gentleman that then links through to Inhoco Formations Limited. Inhoco Formations Limited are involved in the creation of thousands of shell companies. Okay, you remember what I've said. Again, this element is not, the government have allowed this to happen. They're allowing this shell company creation through unregulated Companies House registrations. That means there is the ability to launder money, illegal money, through accounts and through companies. Now let's look at the National Crime Agency UK Limited. As we said in that article at the beginning, that was started up whilst Theresa May was in power. This is their Companies House records. Although they were incorporated in 2007, since I've reported this fraud, they are now proposing, when this was put in place, it might have changed, but this was very recently I did this, proposing to strike the company off, to dissolve that company. Is that to do with me reporting this fraud? National Crime Agency UK Incorporated Limited, their actual authentic registration documents here now, incorporation documents. You can see here that it had a company called Contractor UK Director Limited used in starting up the company. Here it is again, a bit shaky screen. It also had a at UK Client Director Limited. Yeah. Now this is where it links now into, this is all previous research from my block of flats. Now there's 5 million companies over, and yet already it links in not only through Waterloo's, that's linked through very closely to people within my associated with My Blog Flat, but it also links in through these other companies that we're going to now look at. And so I just had to stop the video for a minute. Remember, these are all evidential links through documents leading on to the next. Here you can see the incorporation that I showed a minute ago at UK PLC Client Directors Limited, and that links through to Duncan Partnership and Duncan Partnership Secretary Limited. Let's look at those companies. So Duncan Partnership Limited, this is their incorporation records on Companies House. They dissolved in September 2023, even though they were trading since 1999. Anything to do with my reports of fraud. Looking at Duncan Partnership Secretary Limited, their linked company, again dissolved September 2023, even though we were trading for 24 years since 1999. Linking in to Duncan Partnership Limited, you can see here you have this former secretary, Duncan Ronald James. Let's look at him and see where this leads. So it leads to a company called Software Limited. Okay, again, Jupiter features a lot here. Software Limited, let's look at that company. Going through, they were incorporated back in April, 29th of April 1993, as a company called Ski Monday Limited. You can see that they've changed company names a few times. They were incorporated 29th of April 1993. That's important. And they were called Ski Monday. Let's look at their incorporation documents. You can see how this all links in a second. Ski Monday Limited. This is the company, again, 1993, 29th of April. Incorporation documents. Why is my thing not scrolling? Okay, so let's look at their incorporation documents in more detail. This next page, you can see, again, Ski Monday Limited. And Jordan Nominees Scotland Limited, in brackets Scotland, was the company that was associated to it. Now remember, all these companies, it has to have the exact right company details on the top for it to be a legal entity. Okay, and you can see this is linked to Oswald's of Edinburgh. Okay, so let's look at Jordan Nominees Scotland Limited. Remember, the incorporation of this company was in 1993 on the 29th of April 1993. So let's look at Jordan Nominees Scotland Limited, that's on that document. Remember, dated 1993. There's two records that come up. There's a Companies House record search. Two records that come up. One is Jordan Nominees Scotland Limited. You would think it's obviously that company because it was a previous name of Vistra Nominees, but changed to Jordan Nominees Scotland Limited. Dissolved on the 22nd of September. This is the second record, Vistra Nominees Scotland Limited. It was called Jordan Nominees Scotland. Okay, that dissolved on the 17th of November 2020. So let's look at both of them. Now remember, all companies appear to be being incorporated into Vistra, including companies linked to the International Transaction System for all banks, SWIFT, SWIFT, and also don't forget, fake bank documents have been acquired through the startup of this company, through my business, through my company. Okay, clearly fake bank documents that appear to be produced by the bank. Now let's look at Vistra Nominees Scotland. Okay, these are the registration details taken from Companies House. So you can see they were incorporated on the 15th of June 1988 and dissolved in 2020. Now, at the time of that other document, 1993, it would fall into this area here. So it must be this company that put their name to that previous document, because you can see Jordan Nominees Scotland Limited, which was on the document that I showed you a minute ago, and it was called that between April 1989 to April 2019. So 1993 falls within that range. It must be this company. You can't have two companies named exactly the same thing listed on Companies House. So it must be this company. So it links back to Vistra, okay, where all companies are being centralized. But let's look at something quite interesting. This is the other company that was on there. Now, I know this sounds very complicated. You might have to watch this back a few times. It's probably worth it, because this is the biggest problem facing our planet. I'm not exaggerating. Jordan Nominees Scotland Limited. Okay, this is the other record for them from Companies House. They were incorporated, according to this, in June 2018 and dissolved in 2020. Okay, but they were previously called Vistra Nominees. Remember the date of the other document, 1993. So it couldn't have been this company that was on them, because between those dates, this company was called, according to the records of Company House, Vistra Nominees, not Jordan Nominees Scotland Limited. And you can see that the date range 1993 is within this area, so it must be that other company. But let's look at this company a little bit more. This, I believe, is absolutely essential to all of this fraud. Now, they are trying to centralise to Jordan's, which is Vistra, the same company. They're linked. Okay, let's look at the incorporation documents linked to Companies House, right, directly. They're saying that this company was started up in 2018. Here's the incorporation documents for it. Okay, sorry, it's a bit... Now, this document is very old. It started up with Oswald's of Edinburgh Limited, and the date is 1975. So why have Companies House, A, got the date of incorporation completely wrong? I don't think all the inconsistencies you'll see, I don't think this is a mistake. I think this is deliberate attempt, fraud to hide this. Now, you can see the only other name it had for the company was Vistra Nominees Scotland. But yet here we are with an incorporation document linked to Companies House that's called Oswald's of Edinburgh Limited. Now, that is an attempt to hide this company. Okay, this is very, very important. So I think this has been done deliberately to try and protect this company from being implicated in this fraud. Now, let's look at this company a little bit more. Again, I'll just show you to confirm. There's signatures here on this document, and the date again is 75, even though Companies House says it was incorporated in 2018, and it's a different company name altogether. Remember, there's on the bottom here, there's a company called Johnson, Oswald and Son linked to it on a stamp. So let's look at this. There you go. You can see again 1975, just to confirm that to you. Let's look at, so Oswald's is linked to this company. Oswald's Limited also as another company that links to Scotia Incorporations Limited, but you can see that Jason Burgoyne, who is the UK Vistra lead, where companies are being centralised to, is linked to these companies. So let's look at this company that seems to have cropped up. So media release, this is from 2014, this article. Sorry, shaky camera. I've also got to show all of this because I need to show the government that I have the evidence in relation to it. There's no point me not showing the evidence. We want them to be compelled to change the system so this doesn't carry on. A long-established Edinburgh company formation specialist relocates and rebrands. Long-established Edinburgh-based company formation specialist Oswald's and Jordan Group, a Jordan's Group company has relocated to the heart of Capital's professional and financial community and launched a fresh brand identity to more closely reflect its comprehensive range. Established in 1978 as John Oswald and Son. Remember, it was at the bottom of the document. Since 1979, Oswald's has been part of the Jordan's Group. Okay, the firm provides Scottish clients with the legal, accountancy and wider professional business communities with direct access to a comprehensive range of expertise and services throughout the UK. This is really important, best known as company formation specialist, so forming lots of companies through a Companies House. Unregulated, remember, unregulated companies being able to therefore be involved in massive fraud against the public and the ability to launder money through criminally obtained financial assets. But they were a company formation specialist, forming more companies in the UK than anyone else. Oswald's also provides expert corporate legal support and company secretarial administration services. So this is very, very important and key to this fraud. Again, I will reiterate, very easily resolved. Regulate all Companies House companies registrations through Companies House, but they're not doing it because they want this opportunity to fraud that's making trillions. Let's go back to the Association of Police, Crime and Commissioners now. Now, as you saw from the article at the beginning, Theresa May was involved in starting, while she was in power, this company was started up, the Association of Police, Crime and Commissioners. For those of you who don't know, they were a group of men, I believe they were only men, and they worked alongside each constabulary of the country. So each police force had a police, crime and commissioner. My one in Dorset is David Sidgwick. Now, they were there supposedly to be independent from the police and oversee the conduct of the police and make sure that the police were doing everything if they were correctly. And they were responsible for the totality of policing and could actually hold the chief constable to account for anything that goes wrong in relation to that police force. So Theresa May oversaw the startup of this in 2004, you can see. Now, this is really important. They were originally called, why has it gone all blurry? The Association of Police Authorities Limited. Okay, so under Companies House Records, this is what they're under. These are their incorporation documents. And importantly, you can see at the on one of these documents, sorry, shaky screen, I'm just trying to get that there's a stamp for Broadway secretaries, and you can see Broadway directors underneath. This is on the incorporation document for the Association of Police, Crime and Commissioners Office. Now, I was told to submit my evidence through the Police, Crime and Commissioners Office. It should have gone through the Serious Fraud Office. I think they're involved, the Independent Office for Police Conduct. I think they're involved, and I'll explain why. I've got evidence suggesting that. I'll come back to that in a minute. But I was being forced to submit my evidence through the Police, Crime and Commissioners Office, even though I had very clear information to suggest that David Sidgwick was linked through Companies House to these companies involved in the fraud. And yet I was being forced to do that. So let's look at Broadway secretaries that you just saw on that document. So this company is linked to it, and you can see that they were incorporated back in 1966, on the 18th of October 1966, and they were called the Stonsolic Registrars Limited. Okay, Stonsolic Registrars Limited, and here is their incorporation document. There you go, Stonsolic Registrars. Hopefully you can read that. And at the bottom here you can see Witherby and Co Limited, and again there's another incorporation document for Broadway Secretaries Limited. And this is important, it goes back, you can see at the bottom there the London, you'll find this on a lot of the documents that links back to this, the Solicitors Law Stationery Society again. Okay, now this features very frequently, bearing in mind there's over 5 million companies. So initially a search on Witherby and Co Limited, bearing in mind it's on that document as Witherby and Co Limited. There's no trace of that company whatsoever. Remember, all companies have to register, limited companies have to register with Companies House, but that is not happening. And here's a Google search. So that is a Companies House search, and this is a Google search, and nothing is coming up with that exact company name. So let's go back to the Broadway Secretaries Incorporation documents, and you can see, I've already mentioned it earlier, but I think we need to revisit this, see how important this is. The Solicitors Law Stationery Society Limited was imprinted onto this incorporation form, and you can see that that was from 1966. Companies House records confirm also that it was incorporated in 1966. So you'd think, well, that company must have existed in 1966. It's all over this form, and it goes back to a lot of the companies linked to this fraud. Bearing in mind there's 5 million companies. So let's look at that company a little bit more. 1966, it should have existed. A search on that very quickly shows that it links back to Waterloo. Remember, Waterloo is Jordan's. Waterloo factors frequently. Let's look at Waterloo Business Supplies Limited. Lo and behold, there you go. One of their previous company names in the middle there, you can see, was the Solicitors Law Stationery Society Limited. It was originally called the Commentary Limited, but the dates, look at the dates. There's no other company listed anywhere as the Solicitors Law Stationery Society Limited, only this one, but it was not called that at the time. So this is false. This is fraud. This is obvious fraud that has been happening for decades. Wasn't even incorporated, and yet it was put onto a document linked through to Theresa May's and police involved companies that were incorporated. It was only called that between 1989 and 1999, not previously in 1966. let's look at the Financial Conduct Authority, who investigate, I believe, I'm not too sure exactly what they do, but they look into finance, obviously, issues in relation to businesses. As I understand it, they were incorporated in 1985. All I'm doing with this, I just want them to change the system to stop this crime from happening. Is allowing the worst atrocities in the world's history to continue to take place. It needs to stop. So they were originally called Securities and Investments Board Limited, in brackets the. Okay, this is their incorporation document. You can see at the bottom, Slaughter and May were on this incorporation document. They factor frequently, and we'll come to those later through other documents. So let's look at the Association of Police Officers of the United Kingdom. This was incorporated in 2018. Sorry, incorporated in 1997, dissolved in 2018. It was originally called the Association of Chief Police Officers of England and Wales and Northern Ireland. These are the incorporation documents for them. You see there, Barnum and Co. is listed as being put onto the documents. Barnum and Co. did not exist. We'll come to that in a minute. And you can see here, linked to this same incorporation documents, it's all the same document. It's all been retained. All of this has been retained, secured safely in various locations with various people knowing where they are. And this they've been saved as PDF documents. So you can see all constabularies around the force, around the country, were all linked, mentioned on this document of the Association of Chief Officers. Now remember, Barnum and Co. So it's not Barnum, it's Banham and Co. Banham does not exist. Here we go. A check on it very quickly reveals that it didn't even exist. So again, we have fraud on that document. Does not exist. Okay, but if we go in through the Companies House records for the Association of Chief Officers, you can see this person is linked to it. It links very quickly, straight away, in fact, to an active company called the Police Crime Prevention Initiatives Limited. These are their incorporation documents. Sorry, the Companies House register records. We'll come to the incorporation documents in a minute. You can see registered at 50 Broadway. Broadway secretaries. Broadway pops up frequently. It was called the ACPO Crime Prevention Initiatives Limited. I think that's the Association of Chief Police Officers. This is the incorporation documents. Okay. Again, so incorporation documents all signed. This is important. On the bottom of the incorporation documents, it says Chettlebergs Limited of Temple House. Temple again. That frequently pops up, Temple, because of the connections to the Freemasons. I had nothing to do with the Freemasons. They're supposedly good people. I've spoken to a couple of Freemasons since this, and they're good moral standing, but doesn't seem to be the case, does it? Certainly with the ones higher up in it. Chettlebergs Limited, Temple House Holywell. This frequently comes up, you'll see. So let's look at Chettlebergs Limited. That's shown on this does link back to Jordan's. You can see it was originally called Mr. R. Chettleberg Limited. Okay, and this is the incorporation document for it. And you can see it's got Jordan and Son at the bottom, which links to Jordan's, obviously, and this fraudulent system that I've spoken about. Now, interestingly, you can see on the document here that although it's called although Chettlebergs Limited is supposedly called Chettlebergs Limited and Mr. Chettleberg, its incorporation document that links to these records straight away doesn't mention anything about that. Although it's got Jordan and Son on it, you can see it's got oh, there it is. I couldn't remember. Faraway Registration Company as being the company name. Faraway Registration Company. Well, why does the company records say one thing and the document linked to it says something else? Companies House are involved in this fraud. They are assisting in altering records and documents to allow Companies House to commit this fraud, to allow companies to commit this fraud. Here you go. You can see again Jordan's company, Jordan's and Son. Now let's look at Merivale Limited. Okay, because it says Merivale on there. When you search a Merivale Limited comes up. Let's look at Merivale Limited. It was incorporated in 2012. So why is Merivale on those previous documents? Okay, 1958, those other documents were. Let's look at the incorporation anyway. Merivale Limited. And you can see... Oh my goodness, why is it not... It links to Temple House, 20 Hollowell, again. Hopefully that all makes sense. There's going to be very unhappy people with me, but I hope they turn away from this, that they realise what they're doing is wrong. This needs to stop. It is the reason for most of the problems in the world.